Today, I'm super excited to welcome our guest, Natalie Palmer, to the show. I think a few things about her. I mean, she's killing it in the Airbnb short-term rental space. I forgot, when you look at her profile, it's like 20-time like super host or, co-host and she's runs a very, very popular podcast called No Vacancy. And she's even has an event coming up, Level Up Your Listing, which I think it's close to sold out. So if you haven't booked, please book. But more importantly, I think she's like one of the coolest people that I've met in the space. So when I first met her, she was somebody who was actually never mentioned any of those things. It would just, she's the type of person that just wants to get to know you one-on-one, and it's very intimate and it's very real and raw. And I think that's her appeal. And I think that's how she's been able to really grow her audience. And welcome to the show, Natalie.
Hi, Elmade. Hi, Lenny. Thank you guys for having me. That was like the nicest intro ever. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I feel the same way about you guys. Like, I genuinely just think we're friends. It's funny because the more and more events like this you go to, everybody's talking about like networking and strategic partnerships. And I'm always like, who do I want to be friends with in this room? And like everything else will come from there. But yeah, I just like, once I meet people I like, I just hang out with them the whole time. And I'm not like strategic on who I network with, but it's served well so far.
And I think you represent even like the find your freedom concept. And I think that's why we really wanted you to be on the show. It just, you do things that just you enjoy, right? Like, I think sometimes like some of those like events you go to can be very mechanical, where people are strategic and it's like, it becomes almost a game for certain people where they're just like trying to get in the room with certain people, versus you're just like, hey, let's just enjoy each other's company and enjoy the moment. And I think that's so often overlooked and forgotten. So I think that's the one thing that's like your number one appeal. That's what I love about you.
Aw, thanks guys. Thanks, Omid.
So yeah, maybe let's for some of the operators who, or our listeners who don't know who you are, that was me. Like when I first met you, I didn't know who you were. Like, who are you? Like, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Natalie Palmer, and I've been hosting for over 5 years now. And how I got my start was my parents had a second home in Big Bear. And I just one day was like, hey, I feel like I always call it the hosting itch. And I was like, Mom, Dad, I feel like I could host this. Like, could I throw it on Airbnb? So once I convinced them, it was like a whole family affair. My parents were super supportive and helped with everything. And within one winter season, we made enough that they reinvested it to a down payment on another property, had me start managing that one. And then from there, nearby owners just approached us and were like, hey, you guys are booked all the time. Natalie, can you manage my place? Like, we see your reviews are awesome and you're constantly booked. You've got way higher prices than we do. Help us out. So I just said yes, not knowing what co-hosting even was, but started co-hosting. And then from there, it kind of grew. And so today I manage 9 listings, including those 2 from my parents from day one. And then also my husband and I bought our own. So I only own one of those, and then I co-host the other 8. And then in the last year and a half, I've kind of pivoted my hosting role into like the content creation side and education side and all of that. So I am super active on Instagram. I've got my own podcast, No Vacancy, like you guys said. And yeah, I'm planning an all women's short-term rental conference at the end of February called Level Up Your Listing Summit in Scottsdale, Arizona. So yeah, I've really become passionate about the education side and the networking side, like we talked about, and just helping other hosts avoid the mistakes that I made.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I have to say, I had the opportunity, over what was like last week or something. We went to an event to meet you. And for all the listeners, Natalie is the bomb. All right. Just let everybody know, but let's back the story up a little bit because, I know you graduated from where did you go? The Cal State University, right?
Yeah.
And you took up marketing. Right. So you're say, hey, I'm Natalie, I'm cool, and I want to take up marketing, like what made you change into, I'm going to be this queen, Airbnb?
That's exactly how it happened. I said, I'm cool. I'm going to do marketing. Okay, no. Honestly, Lenny, I actually regret going to college. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know if I've ever said that. I did meet my husband there, so it wasn't a total waste. But I honestly, if I went back, I would not go to college again. And my hope, I honestly, I don't want my kids to go to college. If they want to be like a doctor or something and they need a degree, I totally will support it. But, we have a quote unquote college fund for them. And I honestly, my dream would be that when they turn 18, they take the money and start a business or invest in real estate with it. But anyway, I went to college because I just felt like it was the next step to do. Genuinely, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. So I was like, a business degree seems like it'll give me the most flexibility in the future. And then within the business world, marketing was what I liked the most. So that's kind of how that happened. But I've never really done anything with that degree. I'm sure I learned skills there that kind of carried over. But honestly, I've learned more just in the real world than I did in college for sure. But basically when I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was always super lost. I worked as a wedding coordinator for a while. I worked at a rock climbing gym. I was a restaurant server. I did all the random odd jobs. Then I was a freelance website designer, a freelance social media manager. I did a bunch of things that when I look back, I definitely see how they led me to hosting. But it was never, this was totally by accident. My parents just had that property and I was like, I think I could host this really well. Airbnb seems cool. And that's kind of how everything started.
So, it seems like you're the jack of all trades. You do a little of this, a little of that. But I always say that everything you do is a stepping stone to the next thing. So it's, it seems like you have a wide variety of experience, but I think all those kind of tie into kind of what you do, talking to people, managing properties, maybe so. But I think another piece that a lot of people don't talk about is being a parent. So balancing those things and being a parent and how you prioritize everything. So maybe walk me through, because I know you're thinking for a while before they turn 2 was the 2 under 2, which, man, that means you're getting busy and you're doing quickly and so how are you able to do all that, managing everything, including being a mom?
Yeah. Okay. So this is tough because definitely a huge part of why I'm successful today, I would say, is because I did most of the grunt work before I had kids. I was in Big Bear setting up the properties, getting to know them really well, hands-on training the cleaners. If the cleaner was running late, I would start cleaning. I was in the business, getting my hands dirty very much. And by the time I had kids, I knew everything so well that I could outsource it really efficiently. And I can host remotely. Any question that guests have about a property, I can answer that from anywhere in the world. And, I've got all my automated messages and my pricing and everything. So that's one thing, because today I know a lot of my followers are moms with young kids and they're like, oh, I see you doing this, so I want to start too. And I do want to say, I don't ever want to say you can't do it now that you have kids. I don't think that's the case at all. But it definitely helped that I started a lot of this before I had kids, because I was in Big Bear all the time. Now I've really removed myself. I went to, for the 9 listings we manage, I was in Big Bear myself once last year, and that's it. So I've really removed myself a lot and outsourced as much as I can. And that makes it easy. The one thing with kids, I know this show is Find Your Freedom. For me, ultimately, the biggest freedom is being able to be home with my kids. And so I've turned down other co-hosting opportunities. People have reached out to me in markets that I'm not that familiar with. And I've turned a lot of it down because I'm I don't have the time right now to go physically be at the property, help stage it, help find a cleaner and train them. So yeah, that's been one thing. I know there's this talk that you can have it all. I do think you can have it all, but at different stages in your life. Right now, I know that my priority is that I have to be with my kids. So it's nice that the business does kind of run passively, but it's hard to grow it right now.
That's great. And I'm so happy that you're taking us down this lane when it comes to priorities and what's important. And also, how you mentioned hey, like I started my business before I had kids, you know, and I guess let's just stay there for a little bit. So now, you know, you starting a family, you know, you started the business and you use the word outsourced, right? So I guess tell us what that looked like, because, you know, you mentioned earlier that, you know, you had some jobs here, some jobs there. So it didn't sound like you had any jobs where you were holding any like management. Like, how did you know what to delegate and how to delegate and how to outsource and what to outsource?
Oh my God, I still don't know that. Yeah, great. Great. Okay, this is my biggest struggle. Honestly, I'm telling you guys a lot of things I've never said before. I don't think I've admitted this. I think I'm a terrible boss. I think I'm like a terrible delegator. So far, all I've done was give away the things that I don't like doing. So like, I hate bookkeeping. I will hire a bookkeeper. I know that I can't go and be the cleaner. I will hire a cleaner. That's really been it. But when it comes to things that I know that I could do and kind of enjoy doing, guest communication is one. I actually love talking to my guests. I know most hosts hate it. I actually genuinely love communicating with guests, but I'm at a point right now where I do need to outsource that. It's a lot, and I will get these messages from guests like in the middle of bath time or dinner time, and that sucks. And that's a huge struggle for me, because for things where like I know I do it and I do it well, it's hard for me to give it up, you know? Bookkeeping I can't do. So fine, I'll get a bookkeeper, but I don't know. What do you guys do for that? Like, that's my biggest struggle, is giving up the tasks that I'm good at and that I enjoy doing.
No, I love that. I think that's, I mean, you're giving up the tasks that you don't want to do, which means it's probably not natural to you, right? But the ones that you want to do, and that's the tricky part, right? A lot of people who want to scale or want to delegate and want to get their time back have to give up some power of the things that they do, and they know that they probably do it better than the person that they're delegating to. And so an example of that is, so for myself, it was I was doing the messaging, let's say earlier last year, and it was like heavy messaging, random times, but a few things, like you talk about priorities, and I think that's the most important thing for me is getting involved in this business. I walked away from the job, like my W-2, but a big part of it was having a little bit more flexibility. But I was realizing I'm doing the messaging at the worst times, right? It's like bath time and dinner time. And, my wife would get pissed and she's like, hey, you're not present. And then, I'm like, it's reminding me, okay, we got to think about like, what are the priorities? So we eventually got the VAs, and part of it was, the idea was to scale and the VAs, again, is tricky because there's so many scenarios, and the only person that can answer them correctly is going to be you, right? For the most part. And so you give up a little bit of the quality piece to a degree. So, all those 5 stars were starting to turn into, so that we had a couple of 4 stars kind of like trickle in, and you look at some of the way they respond to messages. I'm like, why would they say that? But that's just, it comes with the territory. And I think that's a tricky part is I think there's some data. I don't know if you were the one that shared it with me that said, if you have 5, I think you were the one that shared it with me, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can share that. Because
are you talking about the reviews, the ratings that people don't love?
Yeah.
This was,
I listen sometimes.
Aw, my biggest fan. No, I'm just kidding. So, no, I share this as much as I can because this like totally changed my thinking. But yeah, they've done studies that have showed that any product, not just listings, but any product that has straight 5-star reviews, people don't like it. They think that the reviews were bought and paid for. They think that you like bribed people to get rid of negative reviews, or that those are being hidden or removed. And they've literally looked at anything that's like 4.9, tends to, people like that better. They like to see a little bit. A lot of people, first thing they'll do when they're looking through a place is go to the worst review. And so I know like hosts who sometimes, I've had this, my first bad review ever had nothing to do with our listing. They said that there was a lot of traffic and they were annoyed they had to put on snow chains to get there. And, I was like, okay, luckily I can get that removed because Airbnb would consider that irrelevant to the listing. But I think I actually left it up. I feel like I'd have to go back and see. But when I think back, I actually think there was part of me that was like, if this is the worst review, and a lot of people go and filter by the worst review, if they see that, people have a bullshit meter and they can filter out and be like, that had nothing to do with the listing. Clearly the place is good if this is the worst thing they can say about it. So yeah, Omid, you're right. Like even if you get a couple 4-star reviews and what they say is whatever, communication wasn't as good as I hoped for. If that's the worst thing people say about you, I'm just trying to convince myself at this point to get a VA. but it's true. Like, yeah, don't harp on those bad reviews too much because they really, people like a little bit of authenticity, I think, and not seeing perfect 5 stars all the way across the board.
Well, I'm going to tell you, that's so true. My mother, right, she was in a hospital and we had to find her a rehabilitation center. And I had a list and I'm reading all these reviews and it was this one place that had a 4.9 and then every other place had like a 4.1 or lower. And I'm like, how does this one place got a 4.9, 100 reviews, well over 100 reviews. But, when you read them, you're like, something's not right with going through those reviews. So I do believe that that's factual. And when it comes to delegating, I think you got a great start, with outsourcing. The first thing is saying, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. I don't like that. And get it off your plate. For my background, obviously I had a staff of over 200. So delegating was something. And I think when I first stepped into management, one of my struggles was to understand people will not do things the way that you would do it, but, you had to sit here and, cause I'm a big on empowerment, so, you have to empower them. And then you also have to sit here and just make sure you both share the same goal, cause one person might take this street and the other person take that street. But as long as they end up at the same goal, then at the end of the day, it should be fine. So let me ask you another question. So I know you mentioned about your spouse. So is your spouse involved with the business in any way, shape, or form?
No, I wish he was. He's a teacher and he loves his job so much. I look at Tony and Sarah and these married couples in the industry killing it. And I wish that he's very supportive of me doing all this, but he's just not interested in it. So I'm slowly getting him that way. Like this year, he's not teaching summer school for the first time. And I was like, how about over summer, we buy a property and flip it together over the 3 months and then we'll sell it after. So I'm slowly pulling him in towards this world. I think he loves teaching and stuff, but I'm trying to convince him there's more on this side. Come to the dark side. Leave the W2. It's better.
I struggle with the same thing with my wife. She's supportive, but she's like, you do you, I do me, and let me know what's going on. But yeah, sometimes I think what is the right thing? Is it like the couple thing? You see those the Tony Sarahs or there's multiple couples in the industry, and but it's everybody's has different situations, so it's easy to do the comparison game and
it's definitely the grass is greener. I look at the married couples who do it as a business and I'm like, that's amazing because they're so in line. One can focus on the operations and one can focus on growth and everything. Yeah. But then I also know it would probably be a lot that's all you talk about. It's nice that I can go to Orlando last weekend, and talk about nothing but real estate and STRs for 4 days and then come home and we'll just watch a movie or something. I kind of like having that space also. So I don't know. Sure. Grass is always greener.
Yeah, I agree.
No, that's needed, and sometimes just having too much can be really, really, really overwhelming, but hey, listen, I'm looking at, and I do have a very important question. I think to me, you have a podcast, right? You have this 5-day host crash course, right? You also got the leveling up, listing. So you and your spouse share some type of education, why not, just like you said, you have your 9 to 10 properties that you're hosting. I guess, why are you spending a lot of time educating people? What does that do for you to educate others?
Wow. I've never thought about that. It's funny. I've never thought of myself as an educator. I'm no, my husband's a teacher. I'm the, just Airbnb host, but
I'm helping you bring this together, you and your husband.
Wow. That's so funny.
Just stay with me here, Natalie.
No, and I tell him some of this stuff too. Like I've told him because he's an AP US history teacher, and I was like, you should start a podcast and do like history lessons. Like people would love that, even outside of high school. Like I feel like there's so many like history buffs out there. And like, you know, I have like my house manual template and my co-hosting contract like available for digital download. I told him like make your lesson plans available for download and like your AP study guides, like sell those. So I'm trying to like, you know, still let him keep his profession while doing some of this stuff. But that's funny. I've never thought of myself as like an educator. What do I get out of it? I don't know. I just know that I like it. I think for me, when I started hosting, I did not know any other hosts. I was the only one. And, you know, things like finding a really good cleaner and retaining cleaning talent, or having a guest ask you for a discount. And it's just like, oh my gosh, why? Like, you're not asking anyone else for a discount. You didn't ask the ski resort for a discount, you know, on your lift ticket. You didn't ask the gas station for a discount on your way filling your car up here. Like, why do you ask me? Like things like that, that would just bug me about hosting. I had no one to vent to about it. And maybe that's why I don't think of myself as like an educator, even though I guess I am. But I feel like the way I would describe myself more as like a hosting BFF, or like you're hosting like cheerleader. Like I just want to be like, let you vent about the things that drive you crazy and be like, okay, here's what I did to help. I don't know. It's weird to think of myself as an educator because I think I have so much to learn from people too. All these events that I go to, I will like, okay, so I'll tell you an example. When we were at STR Summit in Orlando, the first day I sat down at lunch just at some random table with people I didn't know. And I don't think I said a word. They were like, we just went around and introduced ourselves. I said my name and that I host properties in Big Bear. And then I just listened to everybody. I didn't say anything because I feel like I have so much to learn from people. And then you guys know I was a speaker on Sunday, and one guy who was sitting at that table came up to me after and he was like, what the, like, I sat next to you and you were so quiet. Like, what? Like, who are you? You know? And I was just like, yeah, I don't know. Everyone else had like something so interesting to say, you know, like I knew I would have my time to speak later. So I was just going to be quiet and take it in. So yeah, I mean, I definitely know like things that I'm good at and I can share, but I'm also so willing to like learn from other people. So honestly, like my podcast too, I guess it is an educational resource, but selfishly, I use my podcast as like private consulting. I'll be like, I want to learn from that person. Let me bring them on for an hour and just pick their brain, and I'll record it if anyone else wants to listen.
You know, I think, you know, that you look at those personality tests, and so with Myers-Briggs, I feel like there's like the advocate. So you're the person who
you're good. I think I am the advocate,
right? Right, you're the advocate.
I'm an ENTP. I forget what that is.
Yeah, but I think you're like
a debater. Wait,
are you a debater? But I think you're an advocate. And this is the reason why. I'm going to give you the reason why.
You're all the above.
So your values, right? You constantly want to, on the customer side, let's say on the host side, you constantly want to do the right thing for the customer. And I think it takes a special operator to want to do that, because a lot of operators, they just look at the bottom line sometimes and they just want to they think about the money. You do hey, I want to do what's the right thing. I want to do what it is for the person. And even for like when you talk about, hey, I'm I'm doing this because I don't want other people to do things that I did. It's like you're like rallying the troops and you're getting everybody together and you're like, hey, let's go, let's do it this way, and this is the way to do it. So that's my perception. That's why I think you're the advocate, but I could be wrong. But that's kind of what I piece together.
I feel like you're right. I feel like I remember being labeled the advocate, but I just looked at my letters and it says it's the debater. So I don't know. Now we're debating.
Okay. Yeah.
Am I an advocate or a debater? Let's debate.
Why are you debating me right now?
That was good.
There you go. Oh, that's funny.
The debater, Natalie, the debater.
Now we're debating. Oh man.
That's pretty.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I am like low key a debater. Like I don't talk about like politics ever on my social media. Like I will not wade into that or like religion, but like in my private life with my friends, like I will give me any topic. I will debate it. So maybe that one does have some truth.
hey, there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
So
So
I guess.
Natalie, go ahead. No, go
Okay.
ahead.
But
Where's the nose scratch?
Yeah, we didn't scratch her. Hey, so Natalie, tell us a little more. You got this amazing event coming up, right? Level up your listing. So for the listeners, let's hear about that. What's that about?
Yeah, so Tatiana Taylor Tate, who's another one, you guys should have her on as a guest too. She is another rock star, super host, interior designer, and me and her met at a short-term rental conference. It was the STR Wealth Con in Nashville. And from there, we just really hit it off and decided that we wanted to do our own summit, but do an all-women spin on it. And so that's coming up in this month, February 27th, 28th, and March 1st in Scottsdale. So it's a 3-day women's event. And I don't know. If you don't stop me, I will talk about it for like 20 minutes. So I don't know how to like wrap it up quickly, but essentially like what, fueled us to do it was we've seen a lot of, and I post about this on my Instagram already, but we've seen a lot of situations where couples who work in this business together, it always seems like the guy is out there like wheeling and dealing and getting the next deal and the next investment. And always like the wife, the woman in the relationship is always like making sure that guests actually show up and that the place is designed well and people actually book. And even I feel like mostly women book short-term rentals. And even when men book my places, they will say, oh, my wife told me to book this one. And so I feel like, no offense, guys, but I feel like we secretly like run this whole industry. And we just wanted an event where like we could shine and talk about the things that like, I don't know, like I love talking about how many throw pillows to put on a bed, and like there's just so many at these conferences. Like I know it's a lot of like real estate investing, and we will still touch on that for sure. And our speakers are amazing. Julie George built an entire like co-hosting business from the ground up and sold it for millions. She doesn't do any hosting now anymore, but like built something with strategy to sell it. One of our speakers, Rachel Gainsborough, she's really big on just doing quality over quantity. So she's got just 5 listings that are bringing her in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So instead of spending time looking for the next deal out there, she's just really focused on quality. And I think all of our speakers are like dominating both like operations and also scaling and growth. So yeah, we just wanted to put an event together that was really focused on guest experience, quality, hospitality, customer service, while also integrating real estate investing and growth and scaling.
I think it's a cool niche because there's like you said, I think there's a good space where women can get together and have fun. And I think Scottsdale, like what better place than Scottsdale? So
exactly,
right city. It's like so it's if for the listeners, if you haven't booked, before it sells out, definitely get a ticket. So I think
when does this episode come out? Because we are very close. It's selling out. So I don't know.
Yeah, we gotta. I mean, we can probably push it up. We can kind of push it up and say, hey, this is gonna skip the line
put us
here.
on the spot right now.
No pressure, but
I'm not putting on the spot. I'm just
no pressure, but we got to do this like next week, basically. Yeah, so we got the message.
Oh my god, you guys are funny.
So yeah, I guess just even. For somebody who's new, who wants to just get their feet wet, and like, what advice would you give them?
So if they're new to like hosting or to investing, or I guess it's the same.
Yeah, like they
advice
see you, like they see you, they want to go to this event, and they're gonna learn a lot. But I think when you go to any of these events, you get excited when you first go to these events. And then a lot of times people don't do anything with it. So what advice would you give somebody to get it going? Because, I often hear people saying, hey, I want to, and then they never do anything.
Yeah, isn't that so true? People get so energized like at the summits and at these events, and then they leave and there's like no action. I feel like I've been guilty of that too. I think the biggest thing is the follow up. So even if you have great conversation or something, or you listen to a podcast, even if it's not in person networking or something, but if you listen to some really good information, you have to take action on it then. And even if it's not right away, like I've heard great pieces of advice for like, okay, one goal of mine, I really want to do a boutique motel, right? And I don't have one yet, but I still will listen to content about it. So when I'm ready, I know everything. But I think in the meantime, to get there, you have to get in Facebook groups, keep going to events, keep showing up, keep listening to stuff. Like you just have to stay engaged with it. Like I said earlier, I had no friends who were hosts. I still like in my personal life don't have any. It's all people that I've met by going to these events. So if I removed myself from this community, I'd be back to not really knowing what anyone else is doing, and it would be very, very lonely. So yeah, you have to take the step to like put yourself in rooms with people who are where you want to be.
Oh, no, that's great. Listen, you know, I'm writing notes over here, Natalie. Natalie's schooling me, so let me make sure that, you know, I'm taking notes. So, you know, I just want to echo those things again. You know, follow up. Like, how important is that? You know, you sit here, you network with individuals, and then that's it. You just let it be, right? You know, taking action. Like, that's probably the most important thing, even if you don't know what you're doing. Right?
Yeah.
Just do something, because, you know, you tend to fall forward, you know, and by falling
Yeah.
forward, you learn something, you meet people. Now, you know, you said go to events and meetups because your friends are not in the space that you are in, and everyone you met are, you know, on meetups and events. And I think the word stay engaged is like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to the follow up, right? You know, you got to sit there and, you know, follow up and stay engaged and figure some things out, because there's so many smart people out here. So, you know, listen, you know, this event sounds, is this your first event you're having? That's the first
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
First event. I mean, I had a background in wedding planning, so I'm like pulling some things I knew from that, but like corporate event, summit structure, totally brand new. Yeah.
And that's great, you know, and we love to hear that. And, you know, what we really love is that, you know, you niched it out. You know, you're saying, hey, women run the world. So you're going to have like the Beyonce song going on there. You know, if you don't, you better get that in the deck. Who runs the world? Who
I'll
runs
tell her
the world?
DJ. I'll
Maybe
tell
you
her
get,
DJ. Let her know.
maybe you get Beyonce there. You know what I mean? But you know, I'm hoping that that's a huge success. You know, like Omid said earlier, I'm pretty sure that it's sold out. Now you got this thing on your post, which I love, and I just want you to give me a quick 1 to 2 minutes on it. So, you know, I read, you know, I like my coffee cup how I like my Airbnb calendar. I think that is like, I was like, ooh. Like, how did you even come up with that? Like, you know, like, come on.
Yeah, my Instagram bio is I like my coffee cup how I like my Airbnb calendar, always full. I don't know. I just literally have a iced coffee here. I just always have coffee, and like I thought that fit well. I don't know how I came up with that. I don't know how I come up with anything, you guys. Like people will ask me what the strategy is. I don't know. I just trust my gut on a lot of things, and like if I don't have an answer to something, I sleep on it and it comes to me. Yeah, I feel like I'm a bad person to interview because I don't have like good answers on like how I planned things and sat down and mapped out my 2023 goals. Like I just try things, and if I enjoy doing it, I keep doing it, and if I don't like it, I quit or I outsource it. That's my secret.
Oh, that's the answer right there. That's all you need to know. So that's perfect.
Take action.
Yeah, I feel like we got to have you back on. We always kind of, conclude it with like you defining, what is find your freedom.
Okay, to me, so I have a two-part. For me, like personally, my freedom truly is like being able to be at home with my husband and kids. And I love my career and growing and everything, but I never want any of that to be at expense of being able to be a stay-at-home mom and be an at-home wife. But really, I think like for me, like career-wise, what finding my freedom has been was, and I've carried this with me through everything. From my very first listing, I always said, I need to create a space that I would want to be in, like create a place that I would book. And every co-hosting client I've taken on, I'm always like, okay, is this a space I would want to be in? And I kind of had this realization a few months ago that I've even carried that into like the podcast and the summit now. I created a podcast that I would want to listen to. I'm creating a summit that I would want to attend. So I think a big part of finding your freedom for me is like creating spaces you want to be in, whether that's physically like a room you can book and check into, or like an environment that you're creating. But yeah, if there's a place that you would want to go, like go out there and make it.
Oh, that's great. I love it, love it, love it. So Natalie, tell everybody, how can they find you? How can they find these courses? How can they buy a ticket to this summit? Like, come on, like let it out. Give us every, where they can go to get this information.
Wow. Okay. So first, you can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, just Natalie Palmer there. But if you want to attend the summit, it's levelupyourlistingsummit.com. And I'm going to go set up a promo code after this. Let's do Freedom10. We'll get your listeners 10% off. So there we go. I'll go program that right after this. So yeah, levelupyourlistingsummit.com, Freedom10. And hurry up, because I don't know when this drops, and we are like close to being sold out. So woo woo.
So, Natalie, we love like concluding the show with a boom, but I know you concluded with a bye. So can we all do like a bye together?
We can, but this is your show. I don't want to take over.
But I think that brings the fun twist to it. So we all got.
All right.
Yeah. So you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Who's
3.
counting?
Oh yeah. 3, 2, 1. Bye. 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 Okay.
Listen. This was one of the coolest episodes. And if you missed it, I'm telling you right now, you want to go back, you want to listen to it. Natalie Palmer is a person you definitely want to know. And if you don't have your ticket, right? Awesome. We just put together a free 10% off coupon, but the way you get it is by listening to this show, and that's the only way. Okay, so with that being said, make sure that you attend, make sure that you reach out to Natalie, because even though she don't call herself an educator, it's just natural in her to educate. So with that being said, one of the things that we love for you to do is we would love to get more episodes like this to you. So we need you to listen, leave an honest 5-star rating, and also leave a great review, so we can sit here and bring more and more and more. Because when this summit goes on, we're definitely going to bring Natalie back, because she's a rock star now, but she's going to be a superstar after that. So with that being said, make sure you share this with all your friends, your cousins, your uncles, your aunts, everyone that's in your contact. And with that, until the next episode, peace.
Peace.
Boom. Is that what we're doing?
Boom.